Yo, Chuck.
All right, this video is going to be on Git versus GitHub. What is the difference? So let's just get started with it. So, first things first, Git is a free and open source software for distributed version control. So, Git in itself is actually software. Version control is just a way of keeping track of changes to software and like changes to a code base. Um, with version control, you're able to reject or accept changes to software. So, like if somebody wrote some code and then pushed it up, you could accept or reject those changes. They couldn't just make those changes to the code and then have that be the final revision. It also helps us manage file versions, and then it kind of it's a safeguard for people screwing up the code base. So just to recap, Git is just a software that we use to pretty much control changes and rejections of changes to the code. So some of the pros and cons of Git. So pros, it's free, it's open source, it's lightweight. Branching and merging the code is pretty easy. You actually don't need the internet to use Git. You can use it offline. And a lot of people, they don't like the terminal interface that Git naturally has. It's kind of not user friendly at the start. But there are some graphical user interface softwares that go along with Git, which can be useful. And then the cons, like I said, that terminal interface is a kind of like a high learning curve. But pretty much Git is the most popular version control around. And some of Git competitors are companies like Bitbucket, Mercurial, Perforce, SVN. But Git, like I said, is the largest market share of any version control software out there. And as of 2022, Git has a market share around 90%. So it's not going anywhere. It's the most popular amongst developers. But developers are not the only people who use Git. So some parties that use Git, like I said, developers, you have engineers, you have writers, government officials, scientists. So pretty much you can use Git to manage changes to stuff. So like if you're writing a book and maybe you're having collaboration from someone else, they can submit their changes to what they wrote to the book, and then you can also accept or reject those changes. The same with scientifically reviewed articles or anything basically where there's collaboration and changes may be accepted or denied. So Git has a lot of uses outside of even developers, but obviously developers and computer programmers are going to be the ones who use Git the most. So now we move on to GitHub. So what GitHub is just Git repositories hosted on a cloud. And what that does is it allows for developers to collaborate easier. Because recall, Git is just a software and it doesn't even require the internet. Like I said before in a slide earlier, you can use Git without being connected to the internet. So with GitHub, you have those Git repositories hosted on a cloud. It invites collaboration. Here you have an image. We have the cloud. It's hosting a Git repository. And then you've got individual users using Git, and they are collaborating together. So what are some of the pros and cons of GitHub? So like I was saying, pros allows that collaboration, encourages it even. Again, handling branching and merging is pretty easy. There is a graphical user interface, which is a little less intimidating than just using Git by itself. And most of the features are free. You can do surprisingly a lot of things with a free tier GitHub account, which is pretty much all you need unless you're at the corporate enterprise level. But most people with just a basic GitHub account will do well. Some of the cons, new users find GitHub overwhelming. I would say this is pretty true because there's a lot of options and there's a lot of configuration things you can do on the GitHub website. And if you don't know what you're doing, it can be confusing. There is a learning curve, and some merge conflicts, you may find it difficult at first to use GitHub to handle those merge conflicts. But again, over time, once you get past that initial learning curve, it's not as bad. Okay, moving on. So just to recap, just remember, Git is software that's version control. You can accept or reject changes to the code base, free and open source. And now GitHub is just utilizing that Git technology, that Git software, and it's hosting those repositories on the cloud. So you can have collaboration on a Git repo or Git repository with multiple developers, engineers, scientists, whatever, over the cloud, and you can allow those changes, reject those changes, so be it. And really, the best thing I think about GitHub is it's so free. The free tier is like encompasses everything you're pretty much ever going to need unless you have a large scale enterprise. So that is a quick comparison of Git versus GitHub. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.